What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful.com, here with the legendary Larry D. Larry, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm so thankful that you guys come and have me on your show. I love doing this stuff.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Larry's very local to where I am, actually running a show in the town I'm hoping to move to, and he's one of the most active guys on the independent circuit, period. And if you've watched Impact Wrestling programming, you've probably seen him there as well. All over the place. We were just talking off air how many matches you work a year. Now, I remember when I did an interview with Deonna Purrazzo, her big goal as one of the most booked women was like 100 matches a year.
Right.
And you're doing like 200 a year.
Yes. Yeah. I typically, about 6 years ago, I would have 80 to 100. And then the last 4 years, it's jumped to about 2 or 220. So,
that is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the travel associated with that, obviously insane. And, of course, a lot of independent wrestling's booked on the weekends. How does that affect your weekdays? Because sometimes you get the rare show on a Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, well, I wrestle every Wednesday, every Thursday, typically every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
My God.
Yeah, so plus I have to work 40 hours
Yeah.
a week as well. So it's tough. And then I run my academy on Tuesdays. So
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about, because obviously you're in the ring, and we're going to get to that, but you've got your hands in promoting. You've got your hands in training. I know that you all have done the shows on Facebook as well, so you've got your hands in that. You've really immersed yourself in all aspects of pro wrestling. Is it ever difficult for you to balance that from promoter to trainer to wrestler?
I tell everyone I have a switch. You know, I feel like when I walk through the doors of a venue or an arena, I switch to Larry D. And then when I walk out, I'm back to Larry Jones. And there's not much difference, but there's a smidge. Yeah.
So I had mentioned you appearing on Impact Wrestling program, and they do a lot of collaborative shows and a lot of that stuff. And you're in there with a lot of their top stars, and clearly they have a say in that type of thing. If they do not want, like, John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, whatever you want to call him that particular day, Johnny Revolver if he's at Wrestling Revolver,
Right.
If they don't want him in the ring with somebody, they're like, whoa, we need that step back. But they seem like not only comfortable with you, it seems like it's encouraged with the amount you're in there with their guys.
It is. It's a blessing, to be honest. And it took me going to Dayton, Ohio, and getting in the Midwest territory with the Rockstar Pro, and through there I met Sami, Callihan, Dave, and Jake Crist, and those guys have just skyrocketed me because they believe in what I do.
Yeah.
And it took me proving myself with Sami and Jake and Dave, all three, and just to get in there with the guys that I get in there with, like Johnny Impact, and get to main event their Twitch Impacts for the Impact Wrestling World title was just something I never imagined. So, yeah, I mean, once you get up and get out, and you just got to prove yourself night in, night out.
Yeah, so I was talking to Ethan Page, who's from Toronto, but wrestles a lot more in the Midwest United States, and I know that's where you get a lot of your bookings at. It's really exploded over the last few years, as your schedule can attest to.
Yes.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, it's been insane, and there's all this talk of a bubble maybe eventually bursting. It doesn't seem like it's slowing down in the Midwest.
No, I think the Midwest is going to grow and continue to grow far beyond. There's promotions that pop up every day, I feel. There's bad promotions, there's good promotions, but fortunately there's been great promotions with great talent that they have big budgets, and they can bring in Impact Wrestling stars. They can bring in the upper echelon of independent wrestlers and things like that. So I'm just blessed to kind of be mixed in with all of them. Yeah.
Now, Kentucky's in an unusual place because the state's regulated, which is kind of wild compared to other places. How do you find that affects what you do? Because there are a lot of other hurdles that go along with that. Like, for example, if woman holding the camera right now wanted to do a seminar, it's going on in the next room, a lot of times the state's like, hey, before you bump, you got to get licensed. And as soon as you're licensed, you have the same abilities as Randy Orton, who's been doing this 20 years. Does that affect you at all when you're scouting talent, when you're bringing people in or anything like that?
No, I think that I've been in it so long that I have an eye for it, I feel. So I'm one of the very few people, I'm okay with the athletic commission.
Yeah.
I'm used to it. It's all I've known. So I look at it like I have to wear my seatbelt to drive.
Yeah.
If I get pulled over, I'm going to have a ticket. So I think it's just another part of wrestling that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely for Tim and the rest of the commission have been great to me.
Yeah.
You know, I've been on other places. They've tried to get me to dog or discredit the commission.
Yeah.
But if we didn't have a commission here, I think it would just run rapid. And that's how bad wrestling happens. So I just try to do my best within the commission rules to put on good wrestling.
Is it fair to say that you're stoked that Todd Neal left and that nobody ever has to deal with him again?
I love Todd Neal.
I do too.
I love Todd. I hope Todd comes back.
I do too.
Todd and Tim have been absolutely great to me.
Yeah.
They're not just wrestling commissioners to me. They're genuine friends.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed to be able to know them the way that I do.
So being so immersed in that Kentucky scene, of course there were always like the Jim Cornette accusations of why this got regulated to begin with, and there's still some of that Ian Rotten style stuff that goes on, and I see that honestly a lot more in Indiana than I see it in Kentucky, because Kentucky is regulated,
right?
And they might have a say against that. If it became unregulated, do you think that there would be that plethora of promoters, considering that you've got to handle that yourself too? How do you think that would affect things in the state?
I think I'm hot and cold on it. I think that if there wasn't a commission here, we would have tons of backyard wrestlers that would be able to go and make money. And well, they probably wouldn't make money, let's be honest, but they would make it appear as though they are professional promoters, wrestlers, entertainers. And I think it would hurt our product more because we have the guys that are untrained and they don't really know how to promote, how to set up, because it's mostly friends and family, what they're used to in the backyard anyway. I also think it could boost our economy if we did have a more extreme version of wrestling here, because it's something that we're not used to.
Yeah.
You know, death matches sell out all over the country.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not against them. Some of my best friends that I've met, some of the coolest people I've met are deathmatch wrestlers. I think that it would have a market in Kentucky if it were done right and regulated right. I feel like maybe we could turn the corner. Not anytime in the next 5 years, I don't feel, but I feel like if the right layout came to the athletic commission as to how we could regulate blood, how we could regulate what's used, what's not used, I feel like it could really boost the market of wrestling here in the state.
You seem, based on what I've seen, like out of your posts and stuff, pretty open to forms of entertainment entering wrestling and stuff like that. Like, we don't see a lot of shoot style out here. We don't see a lot of that even in the Cincinnati area, so to speak. Are there any styles that you would like to see integrated more, but maybe just haven't been cultivated quite yet?
I would like to see a more of a like a comedy side of wrestling. I think that a lot of times it gets crapped on that people do silly things like maybe wrestle the Invisible Man, or you know, I'm big on that. I love that because it's entertaining to me.
I interviewed the Invisible Man one time.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
But things like that I feel like would be hard to accept in Kentucky because we have been so sculpted to a certain Southern style of wrestling, of Memphis style, and it's good guy, bad guy. But I look at it as a competition. So I feel like if it's a competition in a sport that we're trying to put over as being a legit sport, you know, I might be a fan of UK basketball, but I might also be a fan of Michigan State.
Yeah. If
they play each other, I'm torn. I think that's the same way in wrestling. You know, it's just a competition.
As a promoter, are there any of those things that you've tried and you've been like, maybe that didn't work, or knock that out of the park, we can run that one back?
We go outside the box a lot here at PTW, and we're not afraid to put a Derek Neal, who is a babyface, against Larry D, that's a babyface. I feel like our crowd accepts good, solid wrestling. Yeah. And it's they're starting to appreciate it more, so I feel like we're slowly turning the corner.
So in those appearances that I mentioned with Impact, did you get any feedback from anybody at that company or maybe in relation to that company? Because I know that sometimes their Twitch shows aren't, you know, Scott D'Amore and Don Callis might not be there. They might be there. You never know how that works out. Have you gotten any feedback?
Yeah, every time that I've done any business with Impact Wrestling, Scott and Don's always been there. Josh has been there. And it's always been great. It's been positive. Yeah. After the Johnny Impact match, Scott D'Amore grabbed me in a hug and told me how much he really enjoyed calling the match. So I talk back and forth with Scott on Twitter. So I feel good about it, you know. I'm just trying to do my best to earn a job.
Sure. So how would that affect everything else? Like, if you got signed to a contract, how do you think it would affect your schedule? Obviously, depending on the place. If it's WWE, if it's AEW, if it's Ring of Honor, they're probably going to say no more independent dates.
Right.
But if it's Impact Wrestling, they'd probably have a little bit more leeway.
I've always said this when it comes – I get this question a lot. So I feel like of all places that is a fit for me, being a father, a family man. I feel like Impact Wrestling is the place for Larry D, because I will still get to be home. I will still get to do the independence, and I'll still get to make money and provide for my family doing something that I love, on top of being on a national scale, you know. And I think Impact Wrestling right now is the most talented roster that they've had in several years.
Yeah.
And right now is more eyes are starting to get on Impact Wrestling. More eyes are starting to see their product, and you know, now they're on, what is it, the every Tuesday night.
Yeah.
You know, and you got Brian Cage, you've got Moose, you've got Michael Elgin now, you've got the Crist brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Sam. I mean, Rich Swann.
And the women's roster is insane.
Yeah, it can go on and on and on. Everyone there is so talented, and I feel like the contracts and the deals allow them to still float around and stay humble and come back home to the indies like they are here now. You know?
Speaking of, I mean, not to date this or anything, but you've got one of the Crist brothers on the show tonight, and that's a regular thing. He's down here often. Both of those boys wrestle all over the place out here. Is that one of the appealing factors of Impact to people like that, do you think? Because, I mean, normally they wouldn't have the opportunity to come down here and work. And to be honest with you, Impact doesn't exactly run this area much. WWE doesn't run it they run it a little more than they used to since the relaxed rules of the commission. But do you think that's a selling point for guys like the Crist and Callihan?
I think it's 100% a selling point. I also believe that they see a vision, and they see the same vision that Impact Wrestling has, and together they both work towards that. And with the Crist brothers, they're all about helping people.
Sure.
Sami's all about helping people, and they can come and they're scouts themselves. They might not be official scouts for Impact Wrestling, but if you look at Desmond, Zach, Trey, you know, look at all those guys that are on Impact Wrestling now. Ace Austin, Ace Romero.
They've exploded. I mean, PWG, the Rascals are one of the highlights of their show out in California all the time.
And I feel like they trust Sami's word. They trust Dave. They trust Jake. They know that they have an eye for talent. So if they say, "Hey, I've got this Larry D guy," they're gonna be more likely to put me in there and let me swing a little bit. And then once they see that I can hit it past the infield there, they're gonna be likely to use me a little bit more.
So as I mentioned, you got your hands in promoting, in training, in even broadcasting stuff, wrestling. What's your favorite part about pro wrestling?
My favorite part about pro wrestling is agenting.
Yeah.
I love taking two guys and their ideas and me helping them and me not have to take a bump. And I see it unfold, and then I get so excited to see two young guys struggle, and they ask me for help, and then I get to help them, and then I see what they do. It's so I guess it's so pleasing to me. At the end of the day, if once my career's over, I would pray, like, if I hit the lottery, it would be that I could get a job as being a match agent.
So, I mean, like, we're not talking about you being, like, 45 or anything, so I'm not throwing that out there. But
no.
You're in your mid-30s. You're working 200 and some matches a year. How long can you keep that pace up? Do you still feel good physically?
I feel great. My back was bothering me a little bit about a year ago. I never went to the chiropractor. Finally went to the chiropractor. Now I feel like I'm 5-10 years younger now.
Yeah.
I'm back to doing suies outside of the ring. I'm back to wrestling 35-45 minutes if needed. I feel great. I feel like I could wrestle another 10-15 years, to be honest with you.
So you told me that agenting is your favorite thing, helping out people is your favorite thing about wrestling. Who is a person who helped you out the most, whether it be in the ring, you wrestling them giving you advice, training, anything like that?
There's two guys that have helped me tremendously. First, that would be more known, would be the Monster Abyss.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's took me in, and years ago, on a more personal side, my first marriage ended, and I had a number that came across, and I didn't recognize it, so I hit the ignore button, and then it called again. I hit it again, and then I got a text, and it was Abyss.
Was it that Walton, Kentucky number?
Yes, and it was telling me, it was like, "Hey, this is Abyss. Call me. I want to talk to you." You know, so I called him back, and then from that point forward, we would talk every week for 2 or 3 times a week, and he's just really good for advice, really good at pushing me and helping me. And then the other guy was locally Scott Hayes. I didn't have an idea of wrestling. I could wrestle, but I didn't have an idea how to put it together, false finishes, things like that. So Scott Hayes kind of took me in and retrained me without me knowing it. So I owe him so much for where I'm at today.
So as we're here, we're right before a Primetime Wrestling show. What motivated you to start Primetime Wrestling or to run it as often as you do? It's
I think it's just opportunity. You know, I wanted an opportunity to open up a show. I want an opportunity to help people, and I think that Primetime Wrestling gives that platform. It gives me the platform to open up Legends Pro Wrestling Academy. You know, we've got 15 students right now, so I know that I got 15 kids getting ready to go out and on their own journey, and hopefully 15 more come back, and I can help them do the same. End of the day, I'm not going to be able to do this forever, but I feel like if I treat them right, teach them right, my legacy will stay forever.
And honestly, I mean, the area kind of needed it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a ton of pro wrestling out this way.
No.
I mean, I know out in Moorhead they used to run shows, maybe still do once a month or so, but not a ton out towards this area.
No. Central Kentucky is a great spot for pro wrestling.
is.
And I feel like I bring the best talent from Kentucky and the tri-state and anywhere else to Primetime Wrestling, and it's made it what it is today.
I think this entire region is underrated. I think maybe it had to do something with the fact that WWE didn't run TV here for a while.
Right.
And they were content because of some of the rules that we mentioned before. They were like, well, we'll run Indianapolis, and we'll run like not Charleston, Huntington, and Cincinnati, all these border towns. And now last year WWE ran Cincinnati for Starrcade, and they were like, wow, 7,500 people for a house show. We're going to do December 26th show there now.
Right.
Like this area has needed an independent pro wrestling company for a while, and Primetime Wrestling's doing it. How does the crowd, like, how did the crowd start out, and how they developed over time? Have you noticed a shift in what they desire or what they want?
I have. They started out as just a Southern-based crowd. They had to be good versus bad.
Yeah.
And then we threw a mix in. So now, once we mix in, some more Midwest fans come down, some more Indiana fans come down, some more Tennessee fans come up, and we mix them together, and they kind of mix in each other. So they're kind of teaching each other how to be fans, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let the people, before we go, know where they can find Primetime Wrestling and yourself on social media.
You can find Primetime Wrestling on Twitter. It's Primetime KY. You can find it on Facebook, Primetime Wrestling KY. Myself, you can find me on Twitter at Best Hand in the House or at Legend of Larry D. Across the board is Best Hand in the House. Just search it. It's the first thing that pops up.
Larry, thank you so much. Guys, until next time, we're out.